Hi everyone, and welcome back to the University of Law podcast. I'm Nick Ashton, Alumni Manager here at ULaw, and today I'm joined by Baljinder Singh Atwal. Bal studied the LPC MSc with us before going on to become a commercial lawyer at West Midlands Police. He's also involved with the Birmingham Law Society, supporting initiatives that help aspiring lawyers and promote the profession across the region. We'll be chatting about his journey into law, what it's really like working in-house, and how to build a successful legal career. Hi Bal, welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Can you give us a quick overview of what your role at West Midlands Police looks like day to day, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So my current role is senior lawyer for the commercial and property team. So I lead on all things commercial and property at WMP. So the legal team at West Midlands Police is actually called Joint Legal Services. So not only do we act for West Midlands Police, but we also act for Staffordshire Police under a collaboration agreement. Day to day, I deal with all commercial and property matters, and what that translates to into a traditional private practice setting is firstly commercial property, two general commercial, and then thirdly public procurement. So when I talk about commercial property, that's traditional property law, so leases and licenses of police-owned property, so anything from leases of police stations, training centres, offices for staff, and then even covert sites. General commercial is literally anything with a contract attached to it. So anything from confidentiality agreements when we work with individuals and organisations, to collaboration agreements with other police forces, both regionally and nationally. If anyone's into football, so we have a lot of football clubs in the West Midlands region, so there are commercial contracts that sit behind each one of those. And for anyone that's interested in police documentaries, anything that's involving West Midlands Police has a media contract behind that, and that's something we draft internally too. And then last but not least, public procurement. So as a public sector organisation, any service or product that we purchase has to be according to procurement legislation. So anything from new stationery, new cleaning supplies, to police uniforms, to even body-worn camera, purchasing, renewing, and everything in between has to be done through procurement legislation.
Wow, that sounds like a huge breadth of job. Very interesting, lots of variety, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. Very different to my life, or I guess the typical life of a private practice lawyer.
Yeah, I can imagine. You mentioned that working in the public sector wasn't something you originally planned. So what surprised you most about finding your place there?
I guess coming from a traditional private practice background, and to be honest, a typical law student background, you're not really told about what a career is like as an in-house lawyer, or indeed a public sector lawyer. So I guess it was a breath of fresh air. I felt it was way more collaborative because the clients that you work with day to day are actually your colleagues as well. When you're working in a traditional law firm, there's this very kind of formal structure of us and them, me the lawyer, and then them the client the other side, and any interaction is very kind of formal and structured. But being in-house, you're working together on lots of different things. A very different environment. And I guess the other big thing working specifically for a police force is that there was direct positive benefit for absolutely everything we do. When you work in a traditional law firm, I think they use a lot of their kind of good marketing and fancy brochures in terms of the CSR, the pro bono, but absolutely everything we do day to day positively impacts the community that we serve. And I think that was quite huge for me.
So you think that's what drew you to switch from doing the private practice into the public sector?
Yeah, that was a part of it, but I guess the main catalyst was the pandemic. That was kind of the biggest kind of driver. I'd gone from being in a traditional private practice setting to, majority of the world going to their laptops overnight. And then I thought, as a qualified solicitor then, that experience was going to be exactly the same anywhere else I could work. So I thought, let's look at different options, different roles available as a qualified lawyer. And it just so happened at the time I was looking that the police were hiring. And I thought, this looks exciting, this looks interesting. And I've been there since.
And did you have a moment in your job where you were like, yes, this is exactly the kind of work I want to be doing and exactly where I want to be?
I think just in the first few weeks and months, just, I guess, being in a police headquarters just made me realise that everything we do just has a real direct impact to the people we serve in the West Midlands, and that's not something I really felt when I was going to work before. Just going to and from a typical law firm, you didn't really feel that tangible impact that we're making a difference to people around us. I felt that as soon as I attended headquarters. As soon as I kind of jumped on the internet and you see the type of things that the projects and the schemes and the operations that we're working on, all of that has impact to the people of the West Midlands. Straight away I found that there was real value. There's real impact you could do with our legal work.
That's really nice. It's always nice to see that what you're doing is really making a difference, isn't it?
Absolutely.
My next question, what do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about working in-house as a lawyer as opposed to in a legal practice?
Ooh, this is a good one. I think the first one, some people perceive in-house as being an easier route, which is absolutely not the case. I think in-house can vary significantly from size of organization, whether you're in the public sector, private sector, industries, sectors, a whole list of different factors. So I think it depends where you work, what you do, area of law. So I think that's one misconception. Second one is probably about going in-house generally. I think when I was student and trainee, it wasn't very much advertised, and then two, it was perceived as a route for the more experienced or senior lawyer. Nowadays, very much not the case. There are a lot of in-house organisations. A lot of them do have very large legal teams, so they're perfect environments for paralegals, trainees, SQE apprentices, everything in between. So those are some of the misconceptions.
Yeah. Okay. And I know you've sort of touched upon this before about the sort of varied areas of law that you work in, working for the West Midlands Police. But how do you think the variation compares to when you were in-house working for firms?
It's just a completely different spin on a legal career. When you're working in a traditional law firm, you're very much taught that this is the area of law that you're going to qualify into, and this is what you're going to do every single day. I remember working on matters in a previous life where as soon as a different area of law used to come up, you'd have to pass it on to a colleague or send it out straight away. There was never this element of control that you could have on the matter and kind of give that your client that reassurance to say, don't worry, I'll be looking after this for you. It'd be very much XYZ will be looking after this for you. I'm only going to be dealing with this discrete part. So you have this almost professional freedom when it comes to matters to say, okay, depending on value, depending on risk, I will look at this also, or I will project manage this and make sure this is done. So yeah, dealing with different areas of law. And then I guess having that really close connection to clients. And again, when you're in-house, your clients are your colleagues. But when you're in private practice, you have so many different clients and they're only with you as long as your kind of client care letter. So that could be one matter, that could be 10 matters. So the relationship you have with clients in private practice can be quite arm's length at times.
Yeah, it sounds like a lovely way of working with your colleagues, but you've developed that relationship, and I guess you've got a little bit more skin in the game, haven't you, with the things that you're working on for them. And you mentioned in your written profile that you were looking for something different and exciting after experience international law for global firms. And you've sort of, again, touched on this already, but what excites you the most about working in-house?
I guess it's probably the subject matter of just policing. I was never aware that you could work for a police force as a lawyer and then not do criminal law, basically. So that was something that kind of struck out straight away, that you could be a lawyer and not work at a law firm. And I think that still is quite powerful. And when I speak to a lot of junior lawyers, aspiring lawyers, they don't realize that is an actual route for them. Whether it's a police force, a university, a local council, long list of organizations that have their own in-house legal function. Being able to practice law, but not in a traditional law firm, that was what was really exciting for me.
That's really fascinating. And I would have said exactly the same thing. I'd have assumed it was all criminal law if you were working for like an organization like the police. So yeah, it's interesting that there's, other routes where you can still work for those organizations. And would you say that you still feel today in your role and in your job the same way as you did 18 months ago, or how are you feeling about working where you are now?
I think 18 months ago, I think I've definitely learnt more about my areas of practice. I've learnt a lot more about policing, both internally and externally. It's such a huge kind of world that, if you're not part of policing, you don't really understand how it works, how it operates. Um, I absolutely am still enjoying it. That's why I'm still there. And it feels like such a big, I guess you can call it a sector, such a big sector that is constantly changing. Anything in the news will impact policing. And yeah, there's always stuff to learn. There's always new people to meet because it's a large organization. And yeah, I am still enjoying it 18 months on from, yeah.
That's good. That's really nice. It's nice when you can see that you've developed and sort of feel the kind of like the positives about being there for longer and sort of wanting to stay. And one more question about your sort of in-house experience, for the benefit of our, students or alumni community who might be interested. What kind of skills or mindset would you say are key to working in an organisation like the West Midlands Police?
I think the skill set, generally, if you compare that to in-house to private practice, is very much the same. So if you want to practice property law, commercial law, the standard is still quite high. You've got to be a good lawyer. You've got to be able to draft, work with clients, communicate, lead a team. So those core skills are still the same. Don't think it's any less. But in terms of mindset, I think if you want to work for an in-house legal function or just an in-house organization, I think that what will kind of put you in good stead is to actually care about the organization or the sector. I think if I wasn't interested in policing and kind of law enforcement and that kind of element of it, I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much. And I don't think would have stayed as long as I would have been there. So anyone pursuing an in-house career, have a think about what the organization does, if you understand it, if you want to learn more, and if you're actually passionate about it. And there's a whole host of different roles out there. You can work for government, you can work for your local police force, you can work for your local football club. There's so many in-house roles now. It's unbelievable. So yeah, I think that those are my top tips there.
So what drew you to the police?
I still wanted to be in Birmingham, so I was working in a Birmingham office for a global law firm. I enjoyed being in Birmingham City Centre, tons of kind of networking opportunities, Birmingham Law Society, the National Law Society. It was such a, and it still is, a thriving hub for professionals. So I knew I wanted to stay in Birmingham City Centre. I still wanted to practice property law because that's what I qualified and trained in. So I could still retain that, but I could still learn other areas of law. And I was looking around for other roles, and it was quite a unique opportunity where I could still retain that kind of those legal skills around property law, but then be given that kind of freedom to learn other areas of law. And then I think policing generally is just one of those areas that absolutely impacts everyone. And I think we will always need a police force. And I think the better professionals we have in there within any police force, whether it's legal, accounting, estates, officers, the better it is generally for the public.
Yeah, I can see that. Thank you. On the sort of area of community, I wonder if you could, the benefits for community, I wonder if you could tell me a little bit about your involvement with Birmingham Law Society, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the last 3 years, I've had the privilege of chairing their in-house committee. So Birmingham Law Society is one of the oldest law societies across the UK. I think it's been running for about 200 years. And in Birmingham, we have a number of subcommittees that kind of function within Birmingham Law Society. So we have an in-house community, we have an EDI, we have a gender one. We have a long list of different subcommittees that do different things for different demographics and different groups in the region. So I joined 3 years ago as a committee member, and then the last 2 years have been chairing that committee. So the main kind of reason that we exist is because 1 in 4 solicitors across England and Wales are in-house. So it's a massive kind of chunk of the legal profession. And what we realised that historically there wasn't a community for in-house lawyers. So if you wanted to go to events, training, anything in between, it was all focused for private practice lawyers. So we wanted to create a community and a space for in-house lawyers, but we also wanted to create specific events and training for in-house lawyers. Very pleased to say that we've grown a really strong community. We've had coming up to 5 in-person events by the end of this month. very strong community on our private LinkedIn group and our private WhatsApp groups. And there's a long list of training opportunities that we've collated across the Birmingham West Midlands region. So if you're an in-house lawyer in the West Midlands, it's that one-stop shop for you. And I guess the bigger picture is that, the better in-house lawyers are in these different organizations, the better these organizations can run. So whether you're an in-house lawyer for the local council, for the police, for a university, we just want to make these organizations better.
Thank you. I think it's so nice to feel like when you're networking, that you're networking amongst people where, they've got a bit of a similar lived experience of you, and that they can really sort of help you with what you're doing specifically. So my next question is, how do you think societies like the Birmingham Law Society, what do you think they bring to the profession for aspiring lawyers?
Yeah, so I think for aspiring lawyers, they create this safe space for them that perhaps didn't really exist before. When I was at university, it was only the universities, whether it was undergrad or postgrad, it was only those organizations that were putting on things for students, for those aspiring lawyers. But nowadays, these local law societies are kind of creating those safe spaces and bridging those gaps between the aspiring lawyer to the qualified lawyer, and then even beyond to senior lawyers, to judges. So they really do create those connections which weren't there before. And I think for an aspiring lawyer nowadays, particularly in my region now, there's so many opportunities and there's so many tangible professions that you can see and you can actually aspire to, because they're not professions that are just shielded behind curtains anymore. So it allows people to have real access to these professions now.
So for our students listening, or our early career lawyers, how would be the best way of them getting involved in their local legal community, would you say? What's the best sort of first steps to take for them?
I think first step would be to be on LinkedIn. I'm not advocating that you post every day or you post every week, but have a profile on there, follow those companies, those organizations that you're interested in. You'll find a lot of opportunities on there, whether it's things like jobs, work experiences, events, everything in between. Everything gets advertised on there nowadays. Get in touch with your local law society. So every single major city in the UK will have its own law society. So I don't know whether you're Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, London, each one of those will have a law society. So find out what that local law society is. Ideally become a member. So find out when events are happening and where they are, and of course attend them. Next would be to find out what your local JLD group is. So JLD stands for Junior Lawyers Division Group. So again, every major city or region across the UK will have its own JLD group. So definitely get in touch with those guys, and they tend to put on events for junior and aspiring lawyers. So definitely get in touch with those guys. And then I would also recommend checking out the National Law Society website. So that has a long list of events, both in person and virtual. Some of them are for free, that you can go along to find out more about the profession, understand how to get into it, understand all the different opportunities there. And then last but not least, if you are an aspiring lawyer, I would assume that you have access, whether it's to a school, a sixth form or college, university. Check out your careers department there as well.
Amazing. Brilliant advice. Thank you. And one more question about Birmingham Law Society. Did you have something, or have you been involved in something or an initiative or an event, a specific event that you were most proud of? What would you say was, the sort of best thing you've done with the Birmingham Law Society?
I think to date it's probably just creating and building a thriving in-house community. I remember when I joined the committee, I think at the time we probably had maybe one or two events per year. So it was actually quite difficult to meet up with other in-house lawyers, share your thoughts and opinions on the profession, particularly those in-house lawyers that are part of, sole legal teams or very small legal teams, where if they have questions or issues, they historically didn't have anyone to go to. So I'm quite kind of proud of that fact that we've created a community there for in-house lawyers, not only for the ones that are practicing there, but aspiring lawyers can see, oh, this is a community I can be part of and a community I can grow in the future as well.
And what are your most popular event formats that you run? What draws people in?
So I think the traditional networking is always a good one. So every single event we do is with a new sponsor or partner, and it's at a new venue as well. So if you have someone that comes to these events, not only will you get to meet different people there, but you also get to see a new venue in Birmingham as well. So the traditional networking format has been a good one, but we've recently switched that up to seminars as well. So the next one coming up is all about AI. So that's a huge topic. And of course, every in-house lawyer and private practice lawyer is very interested in that topic. And the last two seminars have kind of mixed up in terms of areas of law. So we did one in terms of employment law and the Employment Rights Bill. So we're trying to mix up the kind of seminar, the learning a bit, but also the traditional networking where you can have that safe space to network with other in-house lawyers.
That's brilliant. And what does good networking look like to you? What would you say was, the best way to network?
I think firstly, good networking starts with wanting to be there and enjoying it. When I was a trainee and to an extent an NQ as well, I remember being around lawyers, both junior and senior, and you could tell, and they would openly say it, that they didn't want to be there and they felt that they had to be there, whether it was to represent the firm or the organization or whether it was to win clients. And I think if you're there and you don't want to be there, then that's probably a big red flag. I think only go to events, only go to networking if you genuinely want to be there. Two, if you can build an effective network from it. And what does that look like in practice? So if you've met people, if you've interacted with people, you've had positive interactions with them, and you can kind of share ideas and thoughts in a positive environment, in a professional environment as well. That could lead to things like clients. It could lead to future events. It could lead to collaboration. It could lead to online content. It could lead to a whole host of different things. So yeah, I think it starts with wanting to be there, enjoying it, creating a network, and then I guess following up with that network also. So yeah, I think that's what good networking looks like.
And you mentioned well-being and balance are really valued where you work. So what helps you switch off and maintain that balance when you're, busy and you want to think about something else, I suppose?
I think just having extracurricular activities in your schedule is always good. I think that was always baked into our schedules when we were at school, sixth form, university, where we had that kind of downtime, whether it was sports or societies. And I think as soon as you kind of hit your working career in a professional environment, that gets taken away automatically. And I think people forget to actually insert that back in. So personally for me, it's, going to the networking events, going to the careers events, meeting people, interacting with people. It's all the additional perks that come along with the day job. So I really enjoy just, seeing new places, meeting new people, talking ideas, talking thoughts, all that type of thing. And then I guess personally for me, sport has been a big one for me. So growing up, I played a lot of rugby. So I remember going to school just to play rugby. So, playing 3-4 times a week. And yeah, really good for your mind, really good for your body. And it ultimately makes you, a better professional if you have those positive outlets. So yeah, for me, it's been sport and exercise, but everyone has their own outlets, whether that's, music, art, sports, whatever it is. Make sure you have those extracurricular activities, put into your schedule. As a working professional, it is difficult, but you're the one that needs to make that happen.
Thank you. That's really brilliant advice. Looking back over your career, what has been one of your proudest moments since you qualified?
There's been quite a few. And I was thinking about this because it's a question that a few people have asked me in the past. And I think if you asked me maybe 2 or 3 years ago, it may have been some of the awards I've won in the past. But I think as I've grown older and wiser, I think it's being able to positively impact people. And in the realm of kind of legal is about opening people's minds to legal careers, particularly if they were unaware of it in the past. So I really enjoy going to the networking events, but probably more so going to the careers events, speaking to not only the kind of junior lawyers and the aspiring lawyers, but other professionals and kind of explaining what we do day to day and actually how they can access the profession and how they could potentially be a lawyer one day. Particularly in the realm of in-house and public sector, because it's not as widely advertised as your traditional law firm, whether it's, your high street, your national or your international law firms. So I think the proud moments nowadays are more of kind of changing people's, hearts and opinions when it comes to a legal career, when it comes to the public sector, when it comes to policing. The best interactions are speaking to someone and them having one viewpoint, which is quite rigid in one way, and then after having that conversation, they're actually way more open-minded, and they can have those conversations with their family and friends and say, "Oh, I've learned this today, and I actually feel differently about this topic." So I think those are kind of those small, proud moments I probably take away with me nowadays.
That's really nice. And have you been able to follow anyone through their career into sort of in-house?
Yeah, there's a bunch of people that I've kind of met throughout the years, whether it's through the National Law Society, Birmingham Law Society, even just through like policing, where I've seen them kind of grow through the ranks in terms of their legal career. And yeah, it's quite special. It's quite special to see that.
Yeah, that must make it all worthwhile, all the sort of extra time and effort you put into sort of mentoring people. And finally, if you could give one piece of advice to students or new graduates thinking about the in-house route, what would it be?
I think firstly, for the in-house route, I think there's so many more opportunities now because in-house organizations are growing, and with remote working now as well, the profession in many ways has become more accessible. I think there is genuinely an in-house role out there for everyone because in-house varies from organization to organization. Think about what the organization does. Think about whether it aligns to what you're interested in and what you're passionate about. And the best way to get in there is kind of through those core skills. So the teamwork, the leadership, the attention to detail. As long as you've got those core skills on your CV, in your back pocket, you'll be able to do very well at kind of interview and application stage.
Brilliant, thank you. That was all such valuable advice. It's really interesting getting to know you and hearing all about all that you've done as well, Bal. And thank you for joining us today and for sharing your insights into working in-house for West Midlands Police.
Thank you so much.